My president from my university would always say the people that rule this world and run this world are those who show up.
We obviously know you're the content CEO, the man behind so many of the names we've become so familiar with.
I said, Dan, I'm just so thankful. I still remember he takes a sip out of his tea and he looks at me and goes, you don't know this yet? You're moving to our life. Finding people that believe in you and see something in you before you see it in yourself. My life would be nowhere it is today without the people that when I made these hard life decisions were there by my side. Dan, it was myself, Casey, and Dan sitting in the back of this event. And Dan slides me a sticky note. He's like, record, video, ? Paid. I said, of course. And so he asked me, he's like, do you have a lavalier? I said, yeah. I did not. I go up to the videographer. I say, hey man, you're not gonna believe this. My audio lav mic is not working. Can I use yours just for 30 minutes? The moment he gets off stage, I'll get back. He goes, yeah, my guy isn't speaking. You're good. At the time, I didn't have no personal relationship with him. Heard about him once. And I thought to myself, how can I make an impact? And it was literally that day, moving forward, my life was never the same.
Welcome to the show, Roger.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, thank you. You're a unique and creative and exciting guest for me because a lot of times I have the forward-facing individuals that come on the show, and I've learned more from you and gotten to hang with you at all these events because you're the guy behind the scenes making all that content. In today's content world, you are the content CEO, which is probably the coolest title of anyone I know. You even have some cool shoes. I'm not going to get into that jacket you chose to wear today because, you know.
I'm very much aware that I came to San Diego wearing a Dodgers jacket now.
And those who know me, there's only like 3 things I hate in life, and the Dodgers are one of them. But we're gonna let that slide because I love you.
Thank you.
I had the privilege of getting to meet you actually in January 3rd, 2021, or 20. 2020.
Yeah. 2021 officially, but 2020.
Yeah.
I was like moved here and I had seen you briefly.
So Dan Fleischman said, you need some content and I have the perfect guy. His name's Roger and he connected us. And I reached out to you and you were in Mexico doing a film shoot. And not only did you say yes, which already makes you awesome because you said yes when others would have said no, but you said yes to the day you were landing back in San Diego and you'd be there because that was the day we needed you.
Right.
Do you remember that day?
I vividly do.
We were actually talking about it just before. That's why I'm kind of prodding him because he brought up to me that he landed from the airport and with his carry-on bags came straight to our office after spending New Year's in Mexico at a what kind of?
It was a work. So it was originally living in New York City. There was a pop-up event of a bar/nightclub that did something in Tulum, Mexico, and yeah, it's just the baseline of what I believe is one of the forefronts of my network is. When there's a calling, you show up. And so Dan, put us in a group chat. The calling was you being on QVC and you wanting to capture that. And those type of moments you can't really recreate, right? There's only so many times that you could do something and it just showed up, made it happen.
That's kind of been your MO, but how did you even break into the content world? I mean, coming from Iona University, formerly known as Iona College.
Right.
Nice name change, Iona. Shout out. Did you know you always wanted to be in content?
No. It was something that kind of just happened out of opportunity. So the baseline, when I've reflected on kind of how did I start my life with content creation was curiosity. I was always curious. There was never a point in my life that I never wanted to try something. It was always the same. Throughout my degree, I always had side hustles. I was a waiter, I was a babysitter. I worked at the Office of Admissions to call international students who were curious about coming, and I speak Spanish, so then I was the middleman, and I was a current student. I was a part of my fraternity, leading things within the fraternity. I helped out with athletics. Fun fact, I was the mascot one day just because I wanted to feel and experience that at a basketball game.
Do you have pictures?
And so I don't, but no one knows, right? I was the one, yeah. And for me, that was the baseline. And so full circle is junior summer of being in New York. I had a real estate internship on Park Avenue in the thick of things near Bryant Park. My other peers were at Columbia, Ivy League schools, and me, attending a small private Catholic school surrounded by what is considered, the cream of the crop. And I hated it. I did it for 2 weeks. every morning I would jump on the train and just with my head down, question, what am I doing? And then one day I just bought my ticket and flew back to Miami where I was born. And my family looked at me like, hey, what are you doing? Like, you have a summer apartment in the city and you're here. I go, I don't want to do it. They go, what are you going to do? And I go, I don't know. And so there's two big lessons that I learned in that moment later on, was that my family wasn't mad at me because I had quit. They were mad at me because they couldn't give me a path to take. And they had done all the right things to facilitate they believed what I wanted, which was that New York City real estate internship. But in reality, I was doing it for them. And there was that moment, a social media moment, where I had seen a friend of mine post a Gatorade type commercial, but he was the main guy in it. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, what's this video about? And he was like, well, it's a Gatorade marketing internship. The application required making a video and you had to be the athlete. I was like, oh, dope, where can I sign up? He goes, oh, it's already done. He's like, I'm actually the Gatorade manager for the tour. If anything comes up, I'll let you know. 9 out of 10 times when anyone tells you that, this guy's not going to call me. Fast forward 2.5 weeks later, he hits me up. He goes, hey, I vividly remember everything, where I was laying down in my room. He hits me. I was like, yo, can you jump on a call? I said, yeah. He said, one of our tour managers dropped. You're in Miami, right? I said, yeah. He said, this tour starts tomorrow and you don't have to send in anything. I already spoke to Gatorade corporate about you. You just need to jump on the next 3-way call I'm about to make with one of the executives. And they just want to hear you and feel you out of like what they've seen and what I've told them. Fast forward a 20-minute phone call later, I start this tour, which would be what would put a camera in my hand. And Gatorade bought an ambulance, painted it black, put the Gatorade logo on the side. And what they did was, it was a marketing tour, and we would stop at every major high school along the East Coast that had the top high school athletes. So these were people that were going pro and went in 2 to 4 years. And we would, one, educate them on the importance of hydration by marketing Gatorade products. So the during, which is what we all know today, is the actual Gatorade itself. And then they had a pre, which was a chewable, pre-workout. And then they had a post-shake and a bar that you would have. And so we would educate these high school students on the importance of hydration. And they would be in the back with me, which was special. And I would take a picture of their face. We would print out a Gatorade bottle and have the label wrapped around, and they could take it home.
Oh, that's fun.
So because of that, that required videos and photos that we'd have to share to the Gatorade board on every city and for them to get feedback on what was going on. And there was a handful of times where my friend, who was the photographer, would throw me his camera and say, hey, as I'm speaking, capture the photos. And I was like, oh, are the settings all set up on it? He's like, yeah, you just got to press the button. I said, all right, cool. And I still have it saved on my phone, this one specific photo I took on tour that I had that kind of like light bulb moment, but not fulfillment of like, wow, I was able to take this and capture this moment. And I thought that was so cool, and they loved it too. But it's everything that happened after that. So I had curiosity with it, but wasn't fulfilled. So the tour ends, I have to go back to school. And there's about like a 2-day period where I knew of a family member who had a media company. And he had one of the top photographers in his media company. I had asked him, can I shadow him? And this is like a huge lesson for a college student, someone out starting their career, especially in the content world. It's okay not to know, but the difference is being curious about it and tasting it. And so that's what I did. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do photography, but I thought to myself, let me reach out to a friend, spend with him, shadow him, ask him questions, and then see if that's something I want to do for my future. And so I did. And even after the day, I wasn't sure. But he did something that enabled me and pushed me. And this is also going into another lesson of surrounding yourself with people that truly believe in you and what you're trying to do and or fulfill a passion of yours. The day ends, the family friend is dropping me off. And he goes, hey, that bag in the back is yours. I go, what is that? He goes, the camera bag, everything you need, lenses, batteries. The only thing I'm asking of you is to go back to your university and make a video. I know you're part of different clubs. I know you're in a fraternity, and do that. So I said, all right. I went back to my fraternity. At the time, when you would recruit people, we had slideshow of photos. And I was the first person ever in the history of our school to create a video to promote, to then incentivize them to come, to join a fraternity.
Yep.
And I directed the whole thing. I'm talking about like full blown.
Did you have
no idea what I was doing?
Okay.
Literally no idea. It's one of those things where I just told people, hey, we're going to do this. And I was figuring it out. I didn't know what a storyboard was. I didn't know what actor, like I was just, hey, this looks cool. This is something I think if we documented and shared with a cool song, that it would entice them even more to join our fraternity compared to the other two that were on campus. And so long and behold, my little brother in the fraternity was the president. So that made it easier of like him, giving me the green light to do this. And I did that. And that caught wind to what then would become my first opportunity. There was a restaurant across the street from my school, and they had seen the video I had done. And they said, hey, I can't pay you, but you could eat here for free. And I said, how many times? He goes, as many times as you want. And so for any college student, they know that's gold.
Oh, yeah.
And at that time,
that is a payment.
Yeah, I was living off campus. So I was paying for every meal. Yep. And so at that moment, I was like, I'm in.
And I love that that's the first question, because that was the first thing I was thinking as you said that. I was going to say, how often?
Yeah.
How many times? Because college appetite?
Yes. And
was it good food?
It was great food.
What kind of food was it?
So the concept was very much like Chipotle, where you come up, pick your your proteins and such, and they would stir fry it in front of you, veggies and all that. So this is where something I've never shared, where I created like a hustle within the hustle, and so because I was doing all these side things, our school had these meal cards. So what I would do, I would say to the person, "Yo, instead of using your meal card, and the meal would be like $5-7." I was like, I'll bring it to you for $5 cash to your dorm. So I would get my meal, get 2 or 3, and then take some to people and then make like $15-20 while I was eating.
Smart.
And then eat with them.
Smart.
And I was in a fraternity. So, there's like guys that are just hanging around and they just don't want to move and get off the couch. And so I did that. And by doing that, I met someone, they launched a meal prep program. And this goes into never knowing the influence of someone in the room, how much they could affect you down the road. I was taking an elective class at my university. It was just modern dance. And in that class, I met someone that completely and utterly gave me the chance and changed my trajectory of what I do today. And he was attending Iona. His name is Frankie D'Agostino. And him and I had modern dance class together. And from that class, he started paying attention to my socials, paying attention to what I was doing, with my fraternity, and also seeing what I had done with the restaurant. And he said, hey, he approached me. He said, hey, I have a gym opening about 2 miles away from the school. At the time, Instagram only had 15-second videos. So, this dates me back to like 2015. And he goes, I have filmed the creation of them painting the walls and then us bringing in the equipment. What do you charge for 3 videos? And the first thing that came to mind was $100. And he goes, only $100? I was like, yeah, $100. And that was my first ever paid gig. It was
but to a college kid, $100 is a lot of money.
No, that was a lot. I was more nervous than anyone can imagine. I still remember editing in my living room and sending it to him like recklessly, if he's gonna like it, if he's not gonna like it. And he loved it. And then that would become one of my first, off-site jobs, which is documenting the gym, creating testimonials, filming the group fitness classes, being behind the trainers, supporting the trainers. And this is something I've never really publicly shared, is the highest times during gyms, like the hours, are from 5 a.m. to right before 8 a.m., 9 a.m., where people have to take off to go to work. And then it becomes between 3:30 and 7, right? The 3:30, 4:30, 5:30 classes. Well, I, during my spring semester, had a 3:30 to 4:15 class. So that meant that there would be times where I wouldn't be in class and I would have to be at the gym filming. And it goes genuinely how I believe how I've created my opportunities. You just make it work. You just make it happen. You do something to align with what you want. And there were times, I was a good student, by the way. I wasn't a bad student. I was highly active, studied, and finished with above 3.0 GPA. But there were times that I would enter the class, they would take attendance, pay the kid $5, $10 behind me, tell him where I live, my apartment number, leave my laptop open and take off and go film at the gym. And so I did that because it was opportunity, right? I told myself, hey, I'm trying to make side cash. This could be something I'm looking into, but I was never sure. But yeah, fast forward, 2016 comes around and I bet on myself. So I had my family very traditional. I knew they wanted me to have an offer from something. So my fraternity is actually a corporate company based in North Carolina, and I applied to work for them and I got it. It was $35K a year, housing included. I would travel the country, stopping at other high school, other universities, checking in on them. And there was another position with Nike known as an Econ. Nike spelled backwards. So you're more of a regional position. So you're the middleman between the athletes and the brand to do activations. And I had a chance to go to Singapore. And then there was betting on myself. Again, I'm referring to the same way I referred to my family. I wasn't able to educate or illiterate enough what I was doing. I'm going to take pictures at a gym. And I still remember my grandmother and my sister were like, what do you mean? Like, you have a corporate job in North Carolina, you have another opportunity in Asia, and you're going to stay to film a gym. I said, yeah. I think, are you sure? I go, not really. And as I'm sure you're a parent, and now understanding the love that my family has towards me, I knew that they had it, but more so their kind of pain in that moment was because they couldn't justify my decision.
Well, I don't think, because if we haven't walked the walk, we can't put ourselves in that position. But did you flat out tell Nike, no, you're not going to be an Econ?
Yeah.
And did you flat out tell the fraternity guys
it wasn't going to work out?
It wasn't going to work out?
Yeah, I had chose a different option for my career. But the baseline was, and this is what I told myself, and this is what my best friend told me. He goes, what, you're 21, 22, you give it all you got for 12 months, and you're 23, and Nike's still going to be there, and that corporate is going to still be there. And I said, he's right. And so that's what I did. I bet on myself, knowing that opportunity to be something, or to essentially just tell myself, hey, let me give it all I got.
But the confidence you had to bet on yourself stems from some other attributes that you have.
Yeah.
And you hit one of them, being curiosity, right? Because curiosity forces you to take that next step to see what's underneath that rock or around that corner where opportunity is hiding. And it's hiding out of daylight where most of us are walking.
Right.
But that curiosity creates that opportunity.
Right.
What other attribute did you say in your mind, if you can remember, and said, look, I don't know what I'm going to do and I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to make it because?
Showing up. My president from my university would always say, the people that rule this world and run this world are those who show up. And so I just always knew if I just showed up and I was doing what I thought was good, in my work ethic, that things would align. And then the baseline of, like, my dad, something I always take, he's like, you're doing it with the right people. He's like, you're surrounded by people that care about you. You're surrounded by people that have good intentions. My dad would always say, it's like, if you have a bad heart, you're not going to listen. And kind of that I always thought about. I was like, okay, I trust Frankie, and I'm not going to say and sit here and, like, when I graduated, I was so nervous. I'm telling you, I was nervous. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it, because that feeling of betting on yourself, you have to really, really want to go for it, because no one else is there to tell you that you're amazing and you're great. For me, I had one person. It was Frankie. He would literally tell me I was amazing since day one. He'd be like, you're the best in the game. He's like, you're the best. He's like, there's no one better than you. He would always tell me that every morning. He would pick me up, blast Gary Vee, motivational stuff, make sure I'm working out, checking on me eating. Like, there was a lot of things that, again, someone who facilitated my journey, that he reminded me, like, it's going to work out, and moving through it.
Showing up, though, which you hit on, and I think it's so important that we take a second, because that simple act of showing up is something that I also lean myself into. I say yes. The answer isn't, how much do you charge? My answer is yes. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll go there. Because, to your point, showing up, it takes 95% of the competition out. There will come a moment when I called you to come and through Dan and film me on QVC on January 3rd, 2021, and you're in Tulum. Do you know how many people would say, I'm sorry, I'm in Mexico and I only get back that day, I just can't do it? Most. Because most did. Fun fact. You weren't the first person I called because I didn't know you at the time.
Yeah.
I reached out to Dan and said, Dan, I can't get somebody. It's too close to New Year's, and everyone's saying no. He said, call Roger.
Yeah.
And that right there created the friendship we have, but clearly has allowed you to have unlimited opportunity. And so I think for those listening who are sitting here saying, hey, I don't have special skills, etc., start saying yes. Start saying yes to things that may feel uncomfortable, that may not be perfectly aligned, may not be the right time. Spend the nights and weekends. Go on a Sunday morning. Go on a Saturday night. Turn down that other fun stuff. Come in exhausted, beat, and say, you know what, I'll sleep tomorrow. Say yes, and amazing, amazing things can start to happen. So you said yes to betting on yourself. We obviously know you're the content CEO, the man behind so many of the names we've become so familiar with: Dan Fleischman, Cindy Eckert, Grant Cardone, Charlie Walk, millions of others that I could name. As an entrepreneur, I know how meaningful it is to invest in the people and causes that are close to me. And on GoFundMe, it's easy, safe, and powerful to do just that. Whether you're supporting a family member, friend, local business, or charity. And whenever you make a donation, You're protected by the GoFundMe Giving Guarantee. Visit GoFundMe.com today to help make a positive difference in your community. You've been influential in my own journey and my company's lives, and that's why I'm honored to have you here. There's a different mindset that you have when you're doing it to make somebody else look incredible. How do you put yourself in that frame of mind to where when you're filming, let's say Dan, and you're doing a Dan event, you know what Dan likes, etc. But when you're doing a Grant Cardone event and you're working for Grant, he's a different person. Or you're working for me, working with me, and you filmed for me in the past, where you're like, you know the person so well, but you also know how to tell that story. Yeah. How do you change between those personalities?
Number one is studying the brand, right? The same way you go into your job and you understand there's certain check marks that you have to hit daily. On the content side, it's understanding who the individual is and the personality. So, and today we have Instagram, right? And so before going into working with someone new, I look at their page. I'm like, all right, what has performed well? What do they like? What is the style? The photos that they take most often. Those are things that I look at. Like, what is, the font, or kind of, what is the design behind, the color schemes? Is it bright? Is it darker? Or what can I do differently? So that's the first thing. And then number two, as corny as it sounds, it's like, you just gotta, not only when you show up, just do more than what's expected. And I always like to say I like to do it with a smile, because I love to smile. So because of that, just doing that over and over and over again, I think it's inevitable that some opportunity comes or arises when you're able to do that.
And that's not just words from you, because I don't know if you're aware, but I'll show up at an event that Dan invites me to, and you'll be filming for him, and I'll be speaking on a similar stage, or we'll both just randomly be at the same event and you'll be there filming somebody. And when I'm done off stage, even if I brought my own camera person, I get a text from you with pictures, video, text comments, constructive feedback or encouragement. And you've always just done that. You made no money, never was asked, but you've always just said, hey, Jeff's here, let me get something for him. Let me help him in some way. And I know you don't do that just for me. So you actually live those words you just said. And as a result of that, you are the de facto go-to. And another fun fact, I have hired you to coach my own content team, because we need to do it in the Roger way. Yeah. We need to do it under the guise of the content CEO, because you are building something so magical. It's kind of like, and I use sports analogies, even though I'm not going to use a baseball one because I don't like your jacket. So I'm going to go to basketball. But, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, the commonality was Phil Jackson and Tim Grover. They both had that coach and that mindset coach. The commonality between so many of the most influential people we all follow on social media, friends of mine and people I aspire to know, is you. You have been the guy who has filmed all of them, has told their stories and brought their message to life. And you've done it in such a humble way, which is awesome, because so many other people who have had the opportunities you've had and been at the events that you get to be at and walked amongst the individuals you have, would have a massive head and start to lose sight of what their purpose is. But you never have. You've stayed the most humble guy I know. How do you maintain that humility and that humbleness while you're walking amongst some of the world's most influential humans?
It's funny because there was yesterday where there wasn't the best of personal incidents that happened in my life. And I was sitting on my balcony, and I just think to myself how lucky I am to have the friends and family I have around me. Like, I think about that a lot, and thinking to myself how much worse it can be. Even when things are going great, it's like I always have that, I guess, a daily gratitude moment without thinking about it. I believe in prayer, and I believe, in meditating and journaling heavily. And it's during those times that I think about that, last time I checked, we only do this thing called life once. And so for me, it's like, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it with grace. I want to do it with gratitude. And I want to do it with people that genuinely are just good people. When I made the decision to move, so I spent 18 years of my life in Miami. I bet on myself and moved to New York to go to attend university there. I spent 8 years there. And it was around, talking about saying yes and opportunity. This is a story that I've never even said it in front of Dan, of how I got to work for him. Was I was attending an event with Casey Adams. I believe he's been on your show.
Love Casey.
And Dan, it was myself, Casey, and Dan sitting in the back of this event. And Dan slides me a sticky note. He's like, record video, ? Paid. So Casey whispers at me. He's like, hey, his video guy is in here. He's asking if you record him during his speech. I said, of course. Keep in mind, this is like relatively at the beginning of my career where I started attending events. So with that equipment, I didn't have a lavalier mic, which is the actual audio that you use. And so he asked me, he's like, do you have a lavalier? I said, yeah. I did not. In the back of the room, 10 minutes prior, I had seen another videographer with it. Again, I've never used it. I've just seen it in pictures and videos of what people use to record audio. And I was sharing the story with your content creator right before of just making things happen. And I go up to the videographer. I say, hey, man, you're not going to believe this. My audio lav mic is not working. Can I use yours just for 30 minutes? The moment he gets off stage, I'll get back. He goes, yeah, my guy isn't speaking. You're good. And so as a joke, I'm like, yeah, this one goes on the guy. This is how you set it up on the camera, right? And he's laughing, joking. I'm like, now it's off. Now it's on. And within those 30 to a minute, I figured out how to put it on Dan and hit for Dan to go up on stage. And I did something else thinking to myself, this guy, at the time, I didn't have no personal relationship with him. Heard about him once. And I thought to myself, how can I make an impact? I took the video of him speaking on stage. It wasn't supposed to be edited. He gave me an email and said, send it to my video editor. And I made him an Instagram clip within 30 minutes of him getting off stage that he posted that day. And it was literally that day, moving forward, my life was never the same. Mm-hmm. The day I met him and the day I chose to do that. And it was a culmination, what I've realized and reflected on, of the endless days and hours of just showing up and to do things over and over and over again. Did I know it would lead me to moving to Los Angeles? No way. It was like a gratitude self-talk I had with myself yesterday of thinking, you could have given me $1 million in 2019, said, hey, you're leaving New York City at the peak of it when you were thriving in every way possible to work for someone in Los Angeles.
You mentioned that story, and I had never heard that story before. But it wasn't just the fact that you said yes. It was the fact that you also aimed for remarkability. You said, I could just send this guy the video. I could do the bare bone minimum of what he asked. But no, that's not the Roger way. The Roger way is always, how can I do it the best version I can possibly to add the most value and help as many humans as I can? You didn't move in 2019, though. I think you moved in 21, right?
It was officially 2020. So this is where the story gets
End of
great.
20?
It was, the exact date was June 27th, 2020. And so this is where it gets funny. So that day, past that day, Dan, for the next, I'm sure you've experienced this, started throwing me in group chats. Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, I want you to meet X. This person could help you with content in New York. And he did that over and over and over and over again between March and October. So October rolls around. He sends me a text saying, hey, are you available November 1st to the 3rd? I have an event in LA. I said, yes. He goes, email this person. She'll coordinate your flight and hotel. I said, okay. Didn't ask him anything. Jumped on the flight on Halloween. Came to LA, been here maybe once or twice, but no idea really. Landed in LAX. I'm blowing up the event coordinator. I don't know where to go. No one gave me the hotel address. She's like, you came without knowing the hotel? I go, yes. Dan told me to fly in, so I flew in. And I landed, and then I realized, if you get to know me now, you'll never catch me wearing a suit. I was so nervous. I was in a suit and tie. And he gave me an address to go to this house in Beverly Hills. And that night was the first night of what would become the 100 million mastermind experience. Mm-hmm. And that night, that first night, for you guys to have context, Dan Fleischman, my boss, he has a private mastermind group that people pay $100,000 to attend.
100 people pay $100,000 to attend.
Correct. And at that time, everyone in that room was people that I looked up to and admired. High net worth CEOs that had seen on podcasts, seen on Instagram, seen on socials, and they were all in the same room together. And then there was me. And I was like, what am I doing here? And that first night, he flew in Mark Wahlberg from London to interview him. The next day, he rented out what was Dan Bilzerian's home. And he had a variety of characters speak, everyone from Jordan Belfort to Marcus Lemonis. And then in the evening, he had a charity poker tournament that Tiger performed privately. Chris Tucker was the host and Nick Cannon was the DJ. And then the next day, he rented out the Porsche Experience where you could be driven around in Porsches in the back on the racetrack. And if you weren't doing that, you could play basketball with Dennis Rodman and a handful of other NBA characters. And then once we were done with that, you went inside to hear from Magic Johnson, Kris Jenner, and other high-profile people. Towards the end, there was a breakout session. So these are when people go into private rooms and discuss their businesses and how they could be evaluated and help and such. From the point of March of when I met Dan till November, there was not one time where I had to speak to him in person. I didn't even during the event. It was so fast that I didn't. And I just wanted to give him my gratitude and praise of, I just kept questioning my worth. And I think this goes back to what you keep hearing in my speech is like finding people that believe in you and see something in you before you see it in yourself. And Dan was at a stand getting tea, doesn't drink coffee, and I see him drinking tea alone. I was like, oh, this is my chance to go speak to him. And so I approached him. I said, Dan, I'm just so thankful and I have so much gratitude for you believing in me, flying me out, and me being here. And I still remember he takes a sip out of his tea and he looks at me. And he goes, you don't know this yet, but you're moving to LA, and just walks away. And in that moment, I'm like, this dude is wild. Like, what is he talking about? Like, I'm not leaving New York. Mm-hmm. I love New York. Why would I leave New York? Long behold, June 27, 2020, I was on a plane to move to Hollywood, California.
Well, the reason I asked you when you moved, because I don't know if you know this story. So I'm with Dan. He's telling me, and I hadn't met you yet, never. And he's been bugging me for years to do personal branding, and do content. He's like, Jeff, your message. He eventually let me speak at 100 million. I've had that privilege. But he says to me, you need a content person. And I'm like, well, who's your content person? Kind of thinking like, I've never seen him. And he goes, he's moving to LA. And I'm like, he is? And he's like, yeah, he's going to be full-time moving to LA. I found my guy. He's moving to LA. And that's why I was trying to put the date in my head when you said that, because I remember him vividly telling me that you were moving to LA before I knew you. And I was like, well, when was that? But yeah. So he actually told me before you ever moved that you were moving to LA. And I don't even know if you had known yet you were moving to LA.
No, he told me in November, and then the pandemic hit in March. And this was like a pivotal moment for me. It was March of 2020 where things got crazy. But this was like another like what am I doing? Is I kept doing work from afar. I was in Miami at my best friend's apartment, and I still remember this too. I'm laying on the couch, and he had posted a talentless ad. And at that time, I don't know the direct correlation, but he was helping them, the brand. And I'd seen it. I thought it was cool. So I kindly wrote on his story like, hey, this is a cool video, but I think I could make a cooler one if you send me a t-shirt. And then within seconds, he threw me in a group chat with like the president of the company or someone high up in the executive team. Hey, this is Roger. He wants to do something. If you want to send him something. And I remember sitting there, my best friend sitting to my left, and I look at him and he's like, what's wrong? I was like, this is so crazy. Like, I just hit him up about this brand. And within seconds, he threw me in a group chat and I'm working with the brand. And he goes, who's this guy? And I just explained the entire story I just explained to you. And then my best friend looked at me and he said the same words that I said to him when I moved to New York. He said, your whole life, you've taken a chance. From moving to New York to starting this job, and the one time it sounds like this person is an incredible person, you're not going to bet on yourself again? And I was like, whoa. Mm-hmm. And this is coming from a friend who was doing well. He's a personal trainer at one of the top personal facilities in Miami, DVC. Shout out to Lucas. And
what's up, Lucas? Keep killing it.
Yeah, and I looked at him and I'm like, no one's ever said that to me in that way.
Yeah.
And he goes, you're not going to bet on yourself? The one time that the opportunity actually makes sounds like it's going to be really life-changing. I was like, you're right. Jumped on my phone, sent Dan a text, said, Dan, is that offer still on the table? And he literally responded. I vividly remember him. He goes, yeah, since yesterday. Sends a palm tree, sends an airplane, sends a camera and an emoji that looks like me. And so, a week later, give or take, I went to New York, packed 2 50-pound bags, and I moved to LA.
Well, one of the most attractive, and I mean this not in a sexual attraction, I mean in a professional setting, but one of the most attractive things you can do to stand out and make people want you is show up, say yes, and over-deliver.
Yeah.
There are 3 basic fundamentals that so often get overlooked. Show up, say yes, and over-deliver. And funny enough, those are the 3 success formula principles that you just articulated at the beginning of this whole episode in your own way, in your own words. Show up, say yes, and be remarkable or over-deliver. Because so often we might show up, we might say yes, but we do the bare bone minimum.
Right.
And because you didn't do those 3 things, you are a unicorn amongst horses. You are standing out and shining, and Dan recognized that right away. And so he saw the you that you didn't realize you were because of those attributes. And let's be honest, the content creator you were at that day pales in comparison to the guy you are today.
Oh my God.
I mean, I've known you long enough.
No
Your work
way.
gets better every single day because you're constantly striving to improve. And I'm envious of the content you create, because when you're trying to get content created, it's a matter of, and that's why you're here. One of the reasons you're here today is to help coach our team to do it better, to learn and see it how you see it. But in that same vanity, in that same vein, when you moved to LA, you now obviously had a lot of stress, and you even kind of use these words, but did you feel kind of like you had, or did you have that imposter syndrome feeling where it's like,
Definitely.
I don't deserve to be here yet because I don't have 20 years experience?
Definitely. I think for the young creator listening and starting out, it's totally normal to feel that type of pain or kind of discomfort. What's not okay, and this is what I believe in, is to not do anything about it. And it's, for me, it's like I have those pity moments, and being very blunt and honest, yesterday I had one. Yesterday was a day for me where I had a lot of personal things, and so much hit me in my face in one day where I'm like, I don't want to pick up my camera. I don't even want to look at my laptop. But I don't know if the text for this happening, while I was experiencing that, I go, I need to get out of the rut. I want to see Jeff's team. I need to travel to San Diego. I need to get my body moving. I need to change that. And so sitting there and weeping about it is okay, but then I put a time limit on it, saying I need to change my environment and being able to move forward. And I truly believe that imposter syndrome, as a creator, it's not that it'll go away, but it'll just come in different waves and you'll see it differently. So it's not that I don't believe in myself as a creator now. Now it's just my level of work, right? Mm-hmm. You compare yourself to other creators. You see other videos like, man, that's a great video. Like that, like as you were saying that, there was one specifically I was playing in my head that I recently saw right before I came on the pod, where I looked at that and it got me so hyped. I'm like, man, I want to create something like that. And I view it differently now, where I say to myself, it's not competition, it's just admiration. Mm-hmm. And that admiration, I use it to push me, because that saying is so true. If there's not someone else trying to push you off the cliff, then what are you doing? You're just going to end up walking on the same road over and over and over. And I think the way technology is changing on the content creation side, where you're able to use tools to be more effective and efficient quicker, are allowing me as a creator to evolve. And even though, and I want to say this publicly, that my title is like content CEO is not out of ego, it's just because of my relationships. I was always working for CEOs. And I really don't care. I don't have that competitive edge to a certain degree of thinking like I'm the best, or I need to tell people I'm the best. It's like, it's not like that at all for me. It's genuinely just, do you get the job done? And are the people that you're working for, are they happy about it?
Well, it's not an ego title, it's an earned title, if I'm going to be honest with you. Getting to know you as long as I have and see what you've done and created, I can speak from all the people who have either hired you or want to hire you or just know you as a friend. It's not ego, because it's true. You've earned it. Like, you are the content CEO. You have a way. The New York hustle with that Miami edge.
Yeah.
There's a lot of validity to that. You know, the bridge of those two things, that type A personality from New York that requires the attention to detail, and that I'm going to do it all.
Be a dog.
Yes. And that Miami leisure, which is that personality, that smile that lights up a room that you have, you know, that infectious smile that when you're around you know you're having fun. Mm-hmm. And your core values, I don't know if you have them completely clear, and if you do, I'd love to hear them, but I know one of them is having fun, because you always are having. I've never not seen you with that bright smile, and it makes you want to smile. Yeah. You know, something I tell my everyone on my team and my kids, walk down the street and smile at somebody, you're going to get a smile back. Walk down the street and frown at somebody, you're going to get a frown back.
Right.
So you can initiate the kind of interaction you want by choosing to do it first, and you clearly do that. So that was a long-winded segment to segue into, do you have clearly defined core values for yourself?
I don't. I think you asking me that question has me reflecting. I think I have, without ever writing them down.
Sure.
And I think it's just been instilled in me since I was a young kid. From, you know, I was very, very lucky where I had an amazing childhood, and I'm one of 5 siblings. I have 3 uncles and 3 aunts, a very loving household. So I think the baseline, and, you know, my family, I was raised a Catholic. And so because of that, I think there was a lot of things. I went to a private Catholic high school, I went to a private Catholic university, where I think the consistency of doing the right thing, even though you may be wrong, showing up, show extreme kindness. My dad always says, till this day, he goes, did you do 3 good acts of deed today? He's like, what did you do? Every time I call him, he'll literally ask me that. And if I haven't, I'll sometimes figure it out, make it up. But he still says that to me every day. And I think my influence of my family of just being nice and being kind. And one of the greatest qualities I've learned from Dan is that even though you get the end of the stick, you could still hold the stick upright and do the right thing. Like that is like thinking that you could really turn sideways on situations, but somehow every single time I look at him, and that's the most admirable quality I see in him of just, he does the right thing no matter what, no matter what. And he makes sure that it gets done. Like that for me is what he's instilled in me so heavily, where even then when situations I think are so bad, he still somewhat finds a light in it, and he figures it out. And so without ever intentionally writing it down, I think I've had core values. Now after we jump off this segment, I'll really write them down, because there's a lot of things that I love to write down and remind myself. But I think just based off my upbringing, kind of life situations, I've been so blessed to be surrounded by people like you and Dan and such in my life, where it becomes contagious, right? Like if you're around good people, good things will happen. If you're around good people that say the right things and make the right decisions, naturally you're more inclined to do that. And so that saying is so true. The 5 people you surround yourself with is who you become. My life would be nowhere it is today without the people that, when I made these hard life decisions, were there by my side to help me and guide me and push me in that direction.
Hey, fitness fans, ready to crush your fitness goals? Make your move to EOS Fitness, where becoming a member starts at just $9.99 a month. Gyms are open 24/7 and packed with the latest gym equipment to keep your workouts fresh. What are you waiting for? Give them a call, drop by, or hit up jefffenster.com/EOS to join. EOS Fitness, better gym, better price. Now, let's get after those goals.
Because of their own decisions and their values and their morals, put me in the right room, put me in the right opportunity. That's how we met, of just, the relationships. And so that goes far beyond any education or any book you'll read or any podcast you'll hear, is baseline knowing that having certain core values in your life will play a massive role down the road.
Well, and I think the reason it requires hard choices in life to get these rewards is because why they're called rewards and why they're so coveted is they're so hard to get. The easy choices in life that we easily say yes to don't yield that result because everyone has them. They're the average, right? Average is what everyone has, everyone gets. And so I think life life requires us to make a hard choice to get something new. And how are diamonds made? They're not made on a beach with your feet up. Diamonds are made under extreme pressure, and pressure is a privilege. Pressure is a gift. And so often we as humans run from pressure because it's uncomfortable, it's hard, it's scary, we're unsure, we feel like an imposter, it's disruptive. But the reality is, if you want the diamonds, if you want that success, if you want those opportunities, run towards that pressure. Take it on and say, look, I don't know how I'm going to figure it out. Do I have a lav mic? No, but I'm going to say yes. I'm going to find one by the time this man goes on stage,
right, because
I'm going to deliver. That kind of ingenuity and innovation, that kind of saying yes and taking a chance, moving from Miami to New York, turning down a deal with Nike, which most people could not do. Turning down a deal with the fraternity to bet on yourself. That's hard for everyone to do. Moving to LA on a whim because the guy you've done a few film shots for said you're moving to LA.
It really wasn't even him. It was his network. So my decision wasn't based off of my relationship with him. It was based off the relationships he had with other people and his reputation. Because when I made the decision to stay in New York, I was betting on Frankie helping me and supporting me and to give me opportunity. And I knew he was, number one, he was a firefighter for New York. While he was balancing being a full-time student, he was 2 years older than me. He had incredible family. I'm a big family person. He was so close to his family. Every day talking to his mom or dad, every day showing up for his aunt, uncle, cousin, something. And so I thought to myself, wow, if I'm going to bet on someone betting on me to do something for them, I'm just looking at how he operates. Like, he had everything that I felt comfortable with, and knowing like this guy won't leave me on the street. He won't do me dirty. He won't do things to me that in retrospect, in the business side of it, that would hurt me. And the same thing applied to Dan, is that throughout the period between March and November before I came to LA, and even moving, it was like he kept connecting me with his friends. And I would talk to his friends, and they all said the same thing over and over. He would show up, he was respected, he was loved, he was extremely nice. I would hear about his charity acts over and over and over. And then the plus is that he's a good businessman. But fundamentally, I kid you not, I called my best friend Frankie, and I go, dude, I have the same feeling I have with him about you. It's just like, he's just a good person. And by being a good person, if I'm going to spend 90 to 80 to 90% of my life, I'm with him. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to spend that much time with someone, I want them to be a good person. And so that was like the baseline of it all. It's just genuinely, is he doing the right thing? Does he care for others? And it's just a plus that I'm very, very lucky. And I remind myself every day that I get to travel, I get to attend these events, and he has friends or characters in his life that are celebrities or, all that other stuff. But ultimately, like, bottom line, like, I know I could sit down, have dinner with him, and like, I adore him and his wife like deeply. So it's like, it's way bigger than the odd job opportunity for me. It was genuinely like, does this guy care? Is he nice to people? Is he, the dollar doesn't make anyone. It's what they do with it. So, and I've learned that from him too.
Well, I mean, you are a wealth of knowledge, dude. You're somebody who I enjoy spending time with whenever I get that opportunity. I won't lie to you. When Dan says, hey, will you come speak? More times than not in my head when I'm going, okay, do I really want to travel to this moment? It's normally, his events are not on a Tuesday at 2:00.
Right.
They're usually time away from my family.
Right.
It requires me to travel. All things I don't mind doing for Dan. If you weren't there, it would be a little bit harder to say yes all the time. But I know I'm going to hang out with you when I get that opportunity. And, me and you have lunch or dinner on the side and hang out. And I love Dan. I love his events. I love leading with value and providing that value. But you make the hardship of the whole event easier because of who you are, man. And I'm grateful for you and your friendship. I'm grateful for all of the things you've done for myself, my companies, my friends, the people around me. I want to spend more time with you whenever I can. And I'm thankful you came down today. I mean, we're doing this podcast, but that wasn't you were supposed to come do the show a little while ago and something came up. You came down to help me and help my team do better at what we're trying to do. And so that's just the epitome and definition of who you are. Dude, thank you for everything you continue to do. You're an inspiration and a light.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming on the show, man.
Thank you for making Everbowl.
Oh, well, it's the least I can do for you, Roger. I will have to tell you, the only thing I'm going to have to do for you is I'm going to get you some new clothes.
Oh, my God.
I'm so sorry you had to wear that thing.
We're
the only piece of clothing you had today?
We're going to talk about this. So I am a Miami, native, New York. I genuinely put this jacket on thinking that it was like, oh, Dodgers, California, LA. Mm-hmm. I don't watch baseball.
Yeah, clearly.
And I'm in San Diego. Yeah. And so, not going to say who, but there may have been someone in the building that offered me a blowtorch. And I was thinking, genuinely, it was about helping them in the back with something.
Yep. No, it's to burn that.
And it was to burn my jacket.
I can tell you, I look at it, I get a little nauseous. That's okay.
Most cases, I have no sentimental value towards items, but this one I do because it was the first job I ever got paid to fly out to LA. It was in Pasadena. I bought it at the Rose Bowl. They have their thrifting.
You told me that story, so I said, fine, wear the jacket.
If not, I would genuinely be like, all right, let's toss it if it makes you feel better.
I would have happily done it for you. There's few things I hate in life. Dodgers are one of them. Go Padres. But Roger, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom, your knowledge with the audience, hanging out with me.
Thanks. Happy to be here. This is an insane studio for those watching. This does not give it any justice towards this production of a studio for someone who's had multiple businesses, but his main one being acai is incredible. So I feel so blessed to be here. It's insane.
If you gain value from this episode, all we ask is that you like, comment, and share so other people can learn about success formulas, learn about Roger, learn about the show.
Leave a podcast review.
Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts. Reach out to Roger if you have content needs because he is somebody who will help you regardless of the fact if he can't make it, he will still provide value. He is that kind of guy. He is somebody we all want as friends in our lives. And finally, if you want access to my Network to Millions playbook and you want to help build more relationships with people like Roger, text Jeff to 33777. Once again, that's Jeff to 33777. Thank you.
Don't forget to buy Jeff's book on Amazon.
Appreciate it. Hey everyone. First, I want to thank all of you for tuning in. And if you guys haven't heard about my new book, Relationship Bank Account, click the link in the show notes or search the title on Amazon. This book is packed with all my secrets to success in both relationships and life. Make sure to pick up a copy, and if the book helps you on your journey, let us know by leaving a review. I appreciate all of you and can't wait to see you on the next one.